If you're using the Evolve2 right now, or you're trying to decide between the Evolve2 and the new Evolve3, this is the question that actually matters most. Is this a real upgrade, or is it just another new version that doesn't really change that much? Because on paper, they look very similar, and if you just look at tech specs, it's easy to just assume this is a small refresh. But once you actually test them side by side, especially when it comes to microphone quality, comfort, and long-term usability, you start to realize this isn't just a Gen 2 to Gen 3 update, it's actually a shift on how these headsets are designed. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what changed, and more importantly, what actually matters in the real world. We're going to run microphone tests, audio tests, and range testing so you can see and hear the differences for yourself before deciding on which one makes most sense for how you work. And real quick, if you're trying to figure out which headsets is right for you or your team, that's what we specialize in here at Headset Advisor. We have over 3 decades of real world knowledge. So contact one of our advisors today and you can save yourself the guesswork or time and hassle it takes researching all these different headsets. Sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism.
Rainbow splits, white light in many colors. Rainbow splits, white light in many colors.
ANC. Hear through.
30-foot marker, 80-foot marker right now.
Now starting with the biggest shift from the Evolve2 and the Evolve3, and that's how your voice is actually picked up. The Evolve2 uses a traditional setup with multiple microphones and a physical boom arm, and it does a pretty good job of focusing on your voice and cutting out the background noise. It's proven, it works, and a lot of people like it. The Evolve3 takes a completely different approach. It removes the boom arm entirely and instead uses AI-powered voice isolation that's trained on real-world conversations to separate your voice from everything around you. So instead of relying on having a microphone positioned near the corner of your mouth, it's using software and processing to figure out what your voice is and to isolate it. And that's a pretty big shift because now it isn't just about call quality, it's about how these headsets are going to work with AI tools, voice assistants, and communication moving forward. But instead of just talking about it, let's actually test it so you can hear the difference for yourself.
When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon. When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon.
When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon. When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon.
When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon. When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon.
When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon. When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon.
Sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon. When sunlight hits raindrops, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow splits, white light in many colors, shaping a high arch with ends beyond the horizon.
Now, after hearing that, this is where things get a little bit more practical because there are trade-offs here. One thing a lot of people like about the Evolve2 is the flip up to mute boom microphone. It's simple, it's physical, and you always know when you're muted. With the Evolve3 you don't have that anymore, so you're relying on a button instead. Depending on your preferences, that's either a pro or a con. But there's another side to that which doesn't get talked about enough. Over time, we've actually seen issues with the Evolve2 microphone where that boom arm can fail internally from repeated use, just from flipping it up and down over time. So while it's convenient, it can also become a weak point long term. With the Evolve375, removing that entirely, you're simplifying the design and eliminating that failure point. Now there's another piece of this that's just as important, and that's sidetone, especially if you're using active noise cancellation with both ears covered. If you can't hear your own voice properly, you end up talking too loud, or it just feels unnatural during calls. With the Evolve275, because you have that mic boom, the sidetone sounds more present and a little bit more natural. It feels like your voice is right there in front of you, so it's very easy to regulate how you're speaking. With the Evolve375, even without a boom mic, it actually still works really well. You can still hear your voice clearly, enough to control your voice, even with active noise cancellation turned on. But it does sound a little bit different. It's slightly more open, maybe a little bit more echoey, is the best way I can think to describe it. Not worse, just less direct compared to the Evolve275. And this is still a huge advantage over consumer headphones like Sony, Bose, or Apple, which are built for music and don't have call controls best made for calls. So when you get consumer headphones, there's no such thing as sidetone that I'm aware of. So from a real world standpoint, both work, they just feel different when you're actually using them. Now moving into comfort, this is one of the biggest differences you'll notice right away. The Evolve275 uses leatherette ear cushions, which feel premium, but they can get warm over time, especially if you're wearing them for long calls or throughout the day. And it just gives you a more firm feel than you get with the Evolve375. The Evolve375 switches to fabric ear cushions, which are much more breathable and don't trap as much heat the same way, so they're noticeably more comfortable for long sessions. It's also a slimmer, lighter design at around 120 grams or about 6.3 ounces and has slightly smaller cushions, but the hybrid ANC helps make up for the reduced passive noise isolation. So instead of focusing solely on isolation, the Evolve3 is clearly designed for more comfort, mobility, and all-day wear. And this actually ties into adoption, because one of the biggest challenges that companies have isn't just performance. It's getting people to actually wear the headset consistently, and the design makes that much easier. Now, when it comes to noise cancellation and audio, both of these headsets have ANC, but they approach it differently. The Evolve275 gives you more of a manual control, while the Evolve375 uses adaptive ANC that adjusts automatically based on your environment. On top of that, the Evolve3 adds spatial sound, which makes conversations feel more natural and helps reduce fatigue during long calls or back-to-back meetings. So instead of just blocking noise, it's improving how the conversation actually feels over time, which is something you really notice when you're using these all day. But to show you what that actually sounds like, let's run an audio test.
ANC. Hear through. ANC. Hear through.
Now let's talk about wireless range and performance. Both are rated around the same on paper, but what really matters is how they perform in real-world use when you start moving away from your desk, dealing with walls, interference, and everything else. So here's what that actually looks like.
Okay, this is the Jabra Evolve275 wireless range test. My laptop is right there. We're connected with the Link 380 USB dongle. Right now we're about 10 feet away. Now let's go 30 feet. Okay, we're at about the 30-foot marker, 30 feet. Let's still see if you can still hear me. Now let's go to the 50-foot marker. All right, we're at the 50-foot marker, 50-foot marker. Let's see if you can still hear me. Now let's go to the 80-foot marker. All right, we're at the 80-foot marker right now, and my neighbor is actually running a pretty loud weed whacker. We'll switch between the audio sources to see how much noise the microphone's blocking out or not. Now let's go to the 100-foot marker, 100-foot marker. Okay, we're at about the 100-foot marker, and the laptop is way back there at about 100 feet, and there is a weed whacker still going on even closer. So this is what the Evolve 275 sounds like at about 100 feet away. The 30-foot marker, and now we are at the 30-foot marker, 30-foot marker. I'm recording the audio on my laptop, and we are going to see when the microphone starts cutting out. Now we are at the 50-foot marker. This is what it would sound like at the 50-foot marker. I'm not sure if it's cutting out yet, but we will find out. Now let's make our way to the 80-foot marker. This is pretty much in direct line of sight, not very many barriers. We are now at the 80-foot barrier, 80-foot marker, 80-foot marker. Now let's go a little bit further. I'm not sure if it's cut out or not yet. We're in the backyard, and I'm at about the 100-foot marker. This is the Evolve3 series at the 100-foot marker. Now we're going to go back and see how it performs.
The Evolve375 introduces a replaceable battery, which means instead of replacing the whole headset when the battery runs out, you can extend the life of it. And this isn't just a convenience feature. This is where the industry is finally starting to head, especially with regulations pushing towards replaceable batteries in electronics. So this becomes a long-term advantage, especially for businesses. On top of that, the Evolve3 is built to be AI ready, designed to work better with voice assistants and evolving communication tools, which makes it more aligned with where things are going, not just where things are at today. Now, here's the bottom line. If you already have the Evolve 275 and it's working well for you, you don't really need to rush out and replace it. It's still a very solid headset and does exactly what it's designed to do. But if you're buying new or wanting something lighter, more comfortable, more breathable without the risk of a mechanical boom arm, and something that's built more around future workflows and long-term usability, then the Evolve 375 is a real step forward, not just a refresh. And if you're trying to figure out which headset makes the most sense for you and your team setup, we can help you make that decision based on how you actually work. Contact us today and we'll be here to assist. But overall, this isn't just Gen 2 versus Gen 3. This is a shift from traditional headset designs to something that's built for how people are going to work over the next few years. And that's it for this video. If you found it helpful, give it a like as it helps support our company, and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future.